Good morning to Dan, Khan and Sam as well. Right, we're going to start with the future of Conor Gallagher. Atletico Madrid have agreed terms in the region of around £34 million with Chelsea to sign him. Now, we know that Tottenham are also interested. Chelsea are expecting them to also make a bid. Any move now is down to the player. It's after he rejected a new 3-year deal yesterday. Sam, we'll start with you. Does a move to Spain suit Gallagher, do you think?
I think it does. I think when you look at the way Atletico Madrid play and the way Diego Simeone plays his football, I think it's a match made in heaven. You know, Conor Gallagher is a midfielder that's almost like an old school box-to-box midfielder. He can score goals, he can get involved in play as well. And I think when you're thinking of the type of midfielder Simeone wants from this window, I think Conor Gallagher is probably at the top of your list. That's why you're probably seeing them make this move and trying to make it so quick, because they know that he's going to be in high demand. You know, Spurs are linked with him. There's a few other clubs as well. He's still very young. He's got a lot of experience in the Premier League. He scores goals, scores important goals as well. It just depends on whether, like we know, if he's interested in the move, because, you know, that's going to be a real different shift from playing in the Premier League to playing in Spain. But I think in terms of his playing style, in terms of the team that Atletico Madrid is, I think it makes sense.
Chelsea have clearly tried more than once to make him stay. Can you see, Sam, why he might want to leave?
I mean, yeah, when you're looking at the midfield that Chelsea have, we spoke in the last few windows about all of the midfielders. You know, Caicedo was signed for a lot of money, Enzo was signed for a lot of money, Lavia as well, Guchukwu, Santos, the list goes on. There's so many midfielders, and I think now, when you look at the way Enzo Maresca wants to play his football, you're probably thinking, even though Gallagher is a great midfielder and he was one of Pochettino's best players and Pochettino had high praises for him, I think what we've seen in this pre-season is that Chelsea want to play a lot more possession-based. The midfielders won't be doing as much running as they were last season. And I think in terms of the hierarchy of where he stands, I don't know if he's in the top 3 or 4, even though he seems like the player that would push, and he obviously he's still very young, so he's going to want to improve and get better, and he did last season. But at the same time, if he wants to be playing week in, week out and wants his position to be the same as last season, I don't know if he will have that this season.
And Sam spoke there about, you know, Conor Gallagher's style of play, which is totally correct, you know, in terms of the type of player he is. We saw that for England as well, right, under Gareth Southgate. I think the interesting thing is also Enzo Maresca's style of play, because, as you mentioned, he is going to be very much a possession-based team if it's to replicate what we saw at Leicester last season. You mentioned all the midfield options Enzo Maresca has at Chelsea. Let's not forget Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall now being signed from Leicester. But at the same time, you know, it is a bit of a dilemma, because you would expect, you know, Dewsbury-Hall is Maresca's play. You know, that was the intent signing to back your new man. So you would expect Dewsbury-Hall to be starting or having a significant part, especially at the start of the season for Chelsea, which would mean for Conor Gallagher, his chances of breaking into that team are going to be really limited, I think.
Yeah, and there's always a player that comes in with a manager. You always see 1 or 2 players that comes if they move to a new club. And Dewsbury-Hall, he played yesterday, got an assist for a goal. And I think he's that type of midfielder. In terms of on the ball, he is great. And I think in terms of his work rate, he kind of matches Conor Gallagher. So I think that's going to be a problem for Maresca. And I don't know if it's a problem that he would want if there's that many midfielders that want to start.
Aston Villa also made a bid to sign him in the summer. We already know that Tottenham are interested as well. Do you think, Dan, we could see a situation where a Premier League club comes in for him?
Yeah, potentially. I think the interesting part of the Aston Villa side of the story is Chelsea agreed, you know, a fee with Aston Villa that was larger than the apparent fee with Atletico Madrid, which is really interesting, because I think on paper you would say, would Chelsea want to sell to a Premier League rival? Well, we have seen in previous years under this new regime at Chelsea that they have. They sold Mason Mount just last summer to Manchester United, of course, and then this summer they've sold Ian Maatsen for a large amount of money to Aston Villa already this summer. So I think that argument is probably out the window. However, I think the question is very much for Conor Gallagher himself now. What does he want to do? Because, as you mentioned, Bella, if he's rejected a contract offer from Chelsea already, what is he thinking? You know, the 1 year left of his contract, would he rather stay at Chelsea and fight for his place for another year, potentially be a free agent next summer, and then have the power to decide where he wants to go? I mean, let's have no doubt. I'm sure now, if not before, as we know with Aston Villa, Premier League clubs all around the league will be interested in Conor Gallagher. I mean, he's an asset in almost every way, for the changing room, for the way he plays. I mean, remember, he was Chelsea captain last year, so he automatically brings those leadership qualities as well. So I'm sure a lot of Premier League clubs will be on high alert to try and sign him.
Where do you think he'll end up though, Dan? Do you think Spain, and if so, like, could that affect his chances with England?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think I'm going to take this maybe more in terms of a personal level for Conor Gallagher, because as I mentioned, you know, he'll also be thinking about what's best for him, yes, in terms of football, but what does he want to do? I mean, he's born and bred Chelsea, right, in terms of a London boy. You know, does he want to relocate to another country? I mean, I think we forget about this part of footballers' lives. You know, they do have to move their whole life. It's not just the football. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure. I mean, absolutely. But what does he want to do? And like I said, I think, you know, I'm sure he'll feel some sort of frustration as well. You know, you mentioned about, you know, Chelsea and, you know, offering him a new contract. He has also been linked in the last how many windows leaving the club. I mean, that can't be easy for him. So I'm sure he's probably in a bit of confusion maybe about what's the best solution for him. Yeah. In terms of whether he stays in Spain or not, I think he'll probably be looking at first team football now. He's 24 years old. I don't think he'll want to be a squad player or kind of be wondering, am I going to start everywhere? I think for him now, if he wants to continue in the new regime for England as well, he needs to be guaranteed first team football.
We spoke about this, haven't we? He's a West London boy, Chelsea through and through, and also another academy graduate as well. Be a shame, wouldn't it, if he left?
Yeah, it would be a shame, but it's something that we've seen in the last few years for Chelsea, even before that, you know, with Tammy Abraham as well. But these are players that, you know, they've come through the academy, they've proven that they can play at the top level. And with Conor Gallagher, you're seeing the clubs that are linked with him. I'm sure he's happy that, you know, Atletico Madrid, you know, Villa, Spurs, all teams that are going to be playing in Europe are linked with him. And even if he was to go to Madrid, he's got Cesar Azpilicueta there, who he played with for a few years. And like we've seen, you know, Kieran Trippier made that move to Atletico Madrid, came back to England, got another big move to Newcastle. So it's not the end, you know. I think we're seeing now a lot of players that play for England are seeing opportunities abroad and seeing how they can thrive. And I think he can definitely be one of those players.